Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al, week 11, Thursday night football, and we have got an absolute monster of a game. The Arizona Cardinals against the Seattle Seahawks. The last time that these two teams squared off, it was a few weeks ago, 37-34. Fireworks everywhere. It was the game that Tyler Lockett had like 20 targets. DK Metcalf was kind of under targeted in that game, one of his worst outputs on the season because of the way that they were defense. And it didn't matter where Pat Pete was that night because he did spend some time on Tyler Lockett, and Tyler Lockett made some ridiculous catches against him that night. Both teams were absolutely absurd the last time that these two teams played, and I don't expect anything to be different here. The highest team total on the week, this game right here. Don't have that many fireworks scheduled for the main slate, but Thursday night football is going to be a lot of fun. It's usually not this way. Usually we have the game that we had on Monday night with like the Bears and their struggling offense. That's a Thursday night sort of game, but we have an absolute treat here with Kyler Murray and Russ Wilson lining up in this one. So it's going to be an interesting slate. We're going to go through some things. There's been some news in terms of the running back situation in Seattle. We also have some other questionable players, and it's going to be interesting to see where we can find some value on this slate, because we really don't have very many low price players. So finding the right combinations is going to be difficult. We may have to allow for a couple of kickers in lineups where we don't normally do that or don't want to do that. You might have to take a chance on somebody who's going to play very minimal snaps and try to get lucky with that sixth spot, that fifth flex option, if you will. Thank you guys for tuning in. Drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel. Everything you click helps out the channel. So subscribe, ring the notifications bell. And if you would like, we now have the option to become a channel member here on YouTube. Extra perk that you get for that, yeah, you get some emotes, you get a channel badge right next to your name every time that you comment on the video. You can use the emotes, whether it's on your iPhone or whether it's in the replies here on every video that we have on the channel, or you can run over to Discord. We have a link right down below in the description. If you click show more, go into Discord, link Discord to your YouTube after you've joined to become a channel member, and you get access to the VIP rooms, the sub only rooms where you can surround yourself with other people who are trying to improve their daily fantasy game on a day in, day out basis. So find somebody to talk to about daily fantasy. It can be a very isolating game. And when you play it, just the way that we have to play this, there's no friends and family around. It's not like a league situation. Daily fantasy is a very isolating game to play. So having a community of people, and we're about 4,500 strong now in the Discord, for you to have ideas to bounce off of if you're looking for strategy, or is this a good play, or what type of game selection should I choose, or tournament center. It's great for that. So jump on in there, make sure that you link your accounts. If you want to become a channel member, it's there if you want to support the channel. Other than that, let's get to this amazing game on Thursday night on DraftKings. So we got a millionaire maker on this slate, 2.5 million, probably not going to be taken down by one person unless they get ridiculously unique and something really strange happens. I like to talk about correlations on these videos, and for good reason, because that's how you get your lineups to get to the top of the scoreboard. That's just the best way to do it. But we can make some different rules in this one, or at least break the standard rules, because of the possibility that a captain quarterback is going to be more viable in a game like this than it normally would. You've heard me say over and over again that, like, captain quarterback, I typically limit to about 15 total percent points at all across all of my lineups, and I like to build my groups accordingly, right? So like if we're gonna have Kyler Murray and captain, we're gonna look and build two groups. The first group is going to be, whether you're hand building or whether you're using a lineup builder, we're gonna make sure that every Kyler Murray lineup has at least two of his pass catchers. For a slate like this one, I might include somebody like Chase Edmonds, who has seen a good amount of targets in games, but only saw 3 against Buffalo, 3 when he was the starting running back in place of Drake. But before that, he was included enough. If you want to include him in that group, fine. I'm not sold yet completely. And we'll include him. We'll probably also include the tight ends, because we're going to need some value outlets on this one. I'm probably not going to use Sherfield or any of the other guys. Max Williams, if he plays in this game, we'll see. He didn't practice on Monday. We're also going to build a bring back group. I'm going to include the kicker in the Kyler Murray group as well, because the kicker correlates. If they do score 35, 40 points in this game, the kicker is going to have ample opportunities at field goals, hopefully a long one in there to get you the bonus points for that, as well as the extra points. Every point helps, and every dollar you can save on a slate like this one, where, like, when we look at the prices Let's bring up both teams and not in cap. Let's just look at flex, right? 13, 11, 8, 10, 10, 2, 9, 4. It's going to be really hard to stuff all the studs into this game. I mentioned that we're going to build a bring back group if we're going to have Kyler Murray at captain. And that's going to include everybody that's viable. And at least one of them is going to be in every Kyler Murray at captain lineup. And like I said, I typically limit the quarterbacks. Russ Wilson and Kyler Murray in this one are going to be different. I typically limit my captain quarterbacks to 15 total percent between the duo. I might allow as much as 15% of each one of these guys because I want to limit my captains to players that I feel that can be the highest scoring player in that single game scenario, because that's how you're going to get the winning captain, and then you sort everything else out below that. Quarterbacks don't tend to do that very often. In fact, 15% of all the showdown slates that have ever been won have been won with a wide receiver. Sorry, 15% of those have been won with a quarterback. 70% have been won with a running back or a wide receiver in the captain spot. So that's what we like to prioritize, those two positions as much as we can in the captain spots, because much easier, especially on full PPR, for a pass catching wide receiver or pass catching running back or a wide receiver to be the game winning captain. A quarterback, it would take somebody game changing, kind of like Kyler Murray or Russ Wilson, with the amount of touchdowns that Russ has thrown this year, with the rushing floor that Kyler Murray brings, and the rushing ceiling, because the fact that he basically runs in at least one touchdown every game on average, and he can throw multiple touchdowns, 3, 2, except for that Buffalo game, but he did run in 2 against Buffalo, still scoring 30 fantasy points. 30 fantasy points is a lot. It's typically the ceiling for a quarterback, but we've seen him get up into the 35s and the 40s multiple times. Multiply that by 1.5x and you've got yourself a captain winning sort of lineup. So our second group is going to be every single player that's viable on Seattle. Every Kyler Murray lineup at captain is going to have to require that it has at least one player from Seattle in that lineup. So I'm going to make sure that if Kyler is the captain, I'm going to build at least one of those players into it. We did see Chris Carson return to practice. And Carlos Hyde was also in practice today. So we're going to have to monitor this as everything goes up to the game. So with both of them back, now DJ Dallas off the board, really. Travis Homer not really going to be a situation that we're going to attack, but we do need to pay attention to inactives, because in the case that Chris Carson isn't ready, I know he practiced in limited fashion, but if he isn't ready, then we're ready to pivot. So set up your if-then statements. If Chris Carson is in, then I'm going to have these specific allocations on players. If you're playing single entry, obviously you're going to have him over the other running backs if he's healthy. If he's not, you have to figure out which direction that you want to go. Second type of groups that we're going to build is going to be our wide receiver at captain groups. So if we're going to have DK Metcalf at captain, every one of those lineups is going to have to make sure that we have Russ Wilson in that lineup as well. Because if DK Metcalf goes off for like 125 and 2 touchdowns, it's also likely that Russ Wilson didn't just throw for 170 yards with 2 touchdowns. It only went to DK Metcalf. He probably had a 4 touchdown day. So you want to make sure that you have him. Same thing goes if we're going with Tyler Lockett at captain. I know he's got this Q by his name. That's because he didn't participate in Tuesday's practice. Could just be a day off. They said he picked up a bit of a knee sprain. Again, we'll monitor this as the week goes on. The clear winner there, in the case that he sits, would be the wide receivers behind him. Somebody like David Moore would play a lot more snaps. He's not like a game-changing guy, but anytime that you're going to be on the field opposite DK Metcalf, you're going to run a lot more routes. You're going to see a lot more snaps. Also, somebody like FREDDIE SWAIN would jump into a higher snap roll, a higher routes run, and therefore more targets expected. And we might actually get that value if somebody like Tyler Lockett is out. So we'll monitor that as the week goes on. There's going to be a lot of questions, in my opinion. I think that Greg Olsen, is it going to be Greg Olsen, or are we going to have a situation where Hollister, is he the guy now? Is he the guy? Like, he had 7 targets against Buffalo in week 9, and everybody thought in week 10, oh yeah, Hollister's the guy now. Well, that was a totally different situation. They were playing way from behind. So Hollister viewed more as a kind of a pass catching tight end than Greg Olsen is at this point in his career. So he got more snaps, he got more routes, and that kind of reverted back. In week 9, Hollister and Olsen played, they ran the same amount of routes, they played about the same amount of snaps. and ran the same amount of routes per dropbacks, and then it reverted back to what it's been the previous 8 weeks in week 10, where basically Olsen was the guy that was on the field for the majority of the time. That's just the way that they run it. And so if you think they're going to play from way behind and they're going to get him on the field more, then you're going to prioritize him in your lineups a little bit more. As I said, with our wide receiver or pass catcher groups for Arizona, we're going to be doing the same thing. If we've got DeAndre Hopkins in our captain spot, we're going to make sure that we've got Kyler Murray in that lineup, but that's going to leave us with 5.2K. So decisions are going to have to be made on this slate. It's just the nature of the way that a game like this goes. It's going to be a really fun showdown, but you're going to have to take chances on some of the cheaper guys like on Andy Isabella, not at your captain spot, but as a value type play. I don't know that there's much down here that I'm all that interested in. If you want to take a shot on Dan Arnold, who has at least seen time in certain games, he's 2,200, so you don't have that much that he needs to do for you to pay off. And if he happens to fall into the end zone, something he has not done this year, but he's been pretty productive when he's been on the field. It's just a matter of, is that the way that they're going to attack Seattle? So we're going to tie Kyler Murray to any of our captain lineups that have like Christian Kirk or DeAndre Hopkins, or if you're feeling froggy and you want to put the venerable one, Larry Fitzgerald, in your captain spot. I personally don't think that that's as viable an option. I don't think that Larry Fitz has a chance to be the highest scoring player on this particular slate. I'm probably going to limit my captains between both teams to more of the most expensive guys. I'm probably not going to come down in here unless Carlos Hyde is the starter. In the case that Carson is out, that would be the route that I'm going to go. Probably not going to use David Moore either in a captain's role unless, and right now we're just sitting in that wait and see mode. Going over to the Fantasy Labs Optimizer, as you can see, here's the basic rules that I have. Your range of outcomes for how much you want to shuffle. If you want to stay dead on the projections and just get the best plays and not have that much differentiation between your lineups, you set it to 0. If you set it to 50, that's like max, and it's going to have just kind of randomized lineups. I like to keep it somewhere around 10 for showdown. You can set it by position if you'd like. If you want more shuffle with the wide receivers, but not so much with the quarterbacks, not so much with the tight ends or the running backs, totally get it. Up to you. Your max exposure, you set that. I personally don't allow kickers or defense to be captains in my showdown lineups. You can set your player correlations by inserting rules, or your player groups as well. But here's the 5 basic rules that we talked about. Captain quarterback with at least 2 of his wide receiver, tight end, or kicker. Captain quarterback with at least 1 quarterback, running back, wide receiver, or tight end from the opponent's team. Any captain wide receiver has to have the quarterback from the same team. Any captain tight end has exactly 1 quarterback from the same team, and at most 1 defense or kicker from the same game. And you might have to tweak this rule if you want to get that extra value. Obviously, selecting defenses from teams that drop back a ton or against teams that drop back a ton, like the Rams in week 10, was a very sharp play. Even though these teams can have the potential to score a lot of points, more dropbacks means more opportunities to score defensively. Apply your settings, set it to make 150 lineups, generate those lineups. We're probably going to end up with a ton of captain quarterbacks. And I'm never just going to run this optimizer one time, as I advise you guys on every single video. Don't think that you're just going to log into a site, no matter what lineup builder you use, whether it's rotogrinders, daily roto, or fantasy labs. You're not just going to go to the site, click build 150 lineups, jam them into a tournament, and think that you're going to win. It takes a lot of work. You got to, even though you're saving yourself time by building 150 lineups with an optimizer, it's not just set it and forget it. You got to massage this thing. You got to make it dance the way that you want. You got to get the allocations that you want, and make sure that you have the combinations of players, because correlation is key when it comes to your showdown lineup. So I wish you the best of luck. Enjoy this Thursday night game. It's going to be an absolute barn burner. Look out for another video right here.
He's a legend.